What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and for the last 7 days, I've been driving the 2024 Mazda CX-90 Turbo S Premium Plus. Up front is a 3.3-liter turbocharged inline 6, as well as a mild hybrid system, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video because this is my third CX-90 that I've driven for an extended amount of time in the last calendar year. And so I think this is going to be the longest of the videos because I have so much experience with this vehicle. It's sort of going to be an overview of my first impressions of the first model year of the CX-90, so strap in. This is probably going to be a lot of information thrown at you very quickly. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. But let's get back to that 3.3-liter straight 6. Well, that is a completely new engine for the CX-90 for the 2024 model year. Now, overseas, they do also get this engine in the CX-60, which is a vehicle that we don't get here in the States. So if you're in the US, the only way to get it is in this car. It makes 340 horsepower, which is made possible by not only the turbocharger on the straight 6, but this does have a 48-volt mild hybrid system, as named by Mazda the M Hybrid Boost system. So it will shut off in traffic, but keep the climate controls on. There have been times where I've actually been driving straight at highway speeds and I see the RPMs just shut off because it's going into electric mode. Sometimes while backing up, it's been in electric mode, but it's not all that often. You don't have to plug it in or do anything of the sort. Like I mentioned, the straight 6 is all new and it is from Mazda. They didn't borrow this engine from anyone else. It is the eSkyactiv G engine, G meaning gas, E meaning the mild hybrid. And I have to say this is my preferred drivetrain because the CX-90 is also offered in a plug-in hybrid that gets a 2.5-liter inline 4 from the Mazda 3, as well as a full hybrid system. I like that engine setup. I think it's good and it is more efficient. You will get better gas mileage and you can go 25 miles on a single charge. However, in terms of drivability and power, I much prefer the straight 6. It makes about 17 more horsepower and sounds phenomenal, which is a big part of my driving fun. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic, and it is currently the only Mazda where you can get an 8-speed auto in it currently. All the other products still only have a 6-speed, and I like it. We'll talk about the gear shifter that you're seeing now later, but I like the transmission itself. Last but not least about the drivetrain, the CX-90 is all-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Mazda CX-90? Well, I've really enjoyed this experience. It is a larger vehicle, so if you're coming from a CX-5 or CX-50, just keep that in mind as it is longer and this does not fit in my garage where my CX-5 does. However, much like the CX-5, it has wonderful driving dynamics. The ride is a little bit harder than its competitors. That's how Mazda has always done it. They've always prioritized road feel over cushiness, which I think works in other vehicles. But in this one, since they're trying to go upscale, trying to go luxury, I would have liked to have seen a cushier ride. However, my favorite part, bar none, has been listening to that turbocharged straight 6. It sounds like a Toyota Supra or a BMW, which I got so much joy out of during my week with the CX-90. Fuel economy, 24-ish around town. I was getting 28, 29 on the highway, which is fantastic, but mostly has been in-town driving. Other than that, the plug-in hybrid will get better fuel economy, obviously because you could drive in electric mode as well, which uses no gas, but I don't think it's that bad for a 3-row SUV. However, they do recommend premium fuel. I put premium fuel in it, but it is just a recommendation and not an absolute necessity. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. Now, I can adjust this little screen off to the right to give me some more information, and this is new to Mazda. I wish that this was a little bit bigger, or I could change maybe some other parts of the gauge cluster, but I will certainly take this customization over lack of anything else. And when I do switch drive modes, the gauges do turn red for sport, and they turn tan for off-road, so I do get some color customization when I switch around the features. One thing that has been super annoying, however, is that this does have a driver attention system, which monitors your eyes, and when you look away from the road for too long, it will yell at you, but the threshold of this is way too low. I was driving on the highway the other day, and anytime I would check my mirrors, the safest thing to do, it would yell at me for taking my eyes off the road. I was literally checking my mirrors, and so I think this system is a little bit overzealous and could use some fine tuning. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our volume, skip track, source, voice commands, and phone options, along with the info. We'll change that little customizable gauge in the cluster. And off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise control along with the steering assist. This car will not drive for you, but with the steering assist, it will keep you within the lanes when traveling on the highway. As you can see, the steering wheel is tan or brown. I'm going to call it peanut butter for the rest of the video. And it's not often that cars will come with a colored interior and have that color carry onto the steering wheel. So very, very nice to see that. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our safety button off, parking sensors off, and traction control off, along with the I-stop off. So I-stop is the engine shutting down at stoplights or stop signs. You are able to turn this off. However, it is a lot more aggressive here in the CX-90 than it is in the CX-50. When I had a CX-50, it was barely intrusive at all. And here in the CX-90, it shuts off at pretty much every light. So if you don't like it, you'll have to utilize this button. Down below, we have our rear tailgate release and our memory seat options. Moving on to the door, we have our lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows, along with this nice suede material. Moving into the center, we do get our infotainment system. So this does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, it doesn't have anything really beyond that other Mazdas don't receive. It is a touchscreen for the Apple CarPlay. However, the standard system is not touchscreen, and I like it. And this does get a 360 camera, which I have enjoyed during my time with it because I find it very, very useful and a necessity here for the CX-90. Then we get our hazard switch and start button, but it is accommodated by this suede piece here in the center. I love this. My parents hated it, and over time this probably would get decently dirty. However, Mazda's also doing this in the brand new Mazda 3 Carbon Edition, but in black, and I absolutely adore it in that interior, and I think this color is really, really nice as well. Down below, we have our climate control options, so we do get dual zone, a heated steering wheel, heated front seats, and ventilated front seats, as well as this nice little readout. The temperature buttons are a little bit weird to get used to because you push them both down. I wish that it was one switch, and then down was cold, up was hot. I feel like they could have consolidated it a little bit, and just my muscle memory wanted to push these from the bottom, but you can't. They only go top down, just so you're aware. Down below that, we do have a wireless charger and 12-volt outlet, and then we move into the center console. Off to the left, we have the My Drive system, which are our drive modes. So here in the non-plug-in hybrid, we only have 3 drive modes for sport, normal, and off-road. If you do get the plug-in hybrid, it adds a 4th option, which is all EV mode. Then we get the shifter. I don't like the shifter. It's very, very weird. We saw the same shifter in the MX-30 electric car that was sold in California by Mazda. You move it over for reverse, down for drive. It's just a little bit clunky, and I found myself mis-shifting a lot, either thinking it was in park or not putting it into reverse properly, or you have to have your foot all the way depressed on the brake to get it out of park. Things like that, even after my week and 3 different vehicles that I've driven with it, I don't like it. To the left of that, however, we do have our hill descent control and our camera button, which will toggle the 360 camera at slow speeds or when you're parked. Off to the right, we do have our cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test, but like the prior 2 CX-90s I've reviewed here on the channel, it unfortunately fails. Down below that, we do have our radio controls. So we get our big selector in the center and our hotkeys for the navigation, music, home, and back. Off to the right is our volume knob, which you can move to the left and right in order to skip track. The CX-90, CX-50, and Mazda 3 do this. The CX-5 does not do this for some reason. And off to the left, we have our power parking brake and brake hold. Moving into the center, we do have a clamshell opening center console, which I would have liked to have seen finished in the same peanut butter brown as the rest of the interior, but for some reason it's just black, and that's okay. It just feels a little out of place. But in here, we will find 2 USB-C chargers. Moving on to the seats, they are finished in the proper brown color with some nice suede inserts, and I really like them. They are heated, ventilated, power and memory, and I've enjoyed my time with them. I've done several hundred miles in this CX-90, and my back hasn't been hurting, and I like that a lot. That is a very good thing. However, I will say that some people find the driver compartment areas in some Mazdas not very comfortable. My dad doesn't find it very comfortable. My good friend Tyler Parker, who runs the Realistic Car Review YouTube channel, he doesn't find Mazdas very comfortable. And so I would highly recommend going to your local dealer and checking them out before you order one, just in case you feel that way as well. But I do not feel that way. I have always been very comfortable in Mazdas. I have owned 5 Mazdas myself, and I've never been uncomfortable in them. So it's all personal preference. However, speaking of seats, the big party piece of the CX-90 is that it is a 3-row vehicle. So let's go do some back seat reviews. All right, so we're in the second row of the Mazda CX-90 from 2024, and this has the optionable center console where you could also get just 2 captain's chairs with an aisle. Here's the hybrid that I had that had the aisle in the center. And although I haven't filmed one, you can also option these with a bench seat. So you can make it an 8-passenger, but this is the more luxurious model with the cup holders and the center console. In the center console, I don't get anything, but there is storage space, which is really nice. And this console doesn't flip up. However, there is a drawer down below, which is nice. And up front, we have 2 USB-C chargers, 2 climate vents, and our own climate controls, which also contain heated and ventilated second row seats. So this second row does get ventilated seats, which is very, very hard to find in cars. This is a true story, I drove a $486,000 Rolls-Royce Ghost Black Badge, and it did not have cooled rear seats. It had heated rear seats, but it did not have cooled seats. So for only $60,000, you can get cooled rear seats in the Mazda, but apparently for $500,000, Rolls-Royce won't do it. Don't know why. Very funny. Thought I'd point that out. I fit back here really well. I do have a light over my shoulder. I have these manual sunshades I could pull up in case you have a baby in a car seat. Very important for that. And I can recline these seats as well. So it is a manual handle, but this is as far as I can recline, which is at least a little bit. However, you'd be really cutting into the third row space. And this is a manual seat as well, so I can slide it all the way up if I would like to give them more space. However, speaking of the third row, let's hop into the very back and do a review from back there. So in order to get back there, giant handle right here, and it'll also allow you to slide it up. It's not super easy. Now, I don't think I can, oh, maybe I can. There we go. All right, now this is in the pretty up position. It could come back a lot more. This is in the back position. My knees don't really fit great, but when it is moved up, still leaves a little bit of leg room, but not much. Then I'm actually pretty happy back here. The actual seat material is very good. We have USB-C chargers on either side, and of course cup holders, and my head actually fits. So smaller adults could fit back here pretty easily, and honestly pretty happy, and that's what Mazda's goal was with the CX-90. I also do have climate vents on the sides here, which is very nice to see. I guess I could superheat or super cool my left calf if I wanted to. I wish that it was in the ceiling. Tahoe's Suburbans have them in the ceiling. You could point them right at you and catch one right in the eye, which I prefer, but beggars can't be choosers. I'm happy with this third row as it is. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the Mazda CX-90. Now, this does have the kick-operated tailgate, so just put your foot under there as long as the key is in your pocket, and it will flip it up. This right here is a new bath mat because someone gets really angry when I leave to go do reviews. Don't feel bad for her. She's very well fed. She just gets pissed off. Portuguese water dogs tend to have that sort of displacement. New bath mat. It fits in the bag of the CX-90. But anyway, once we are back here, a couple of things to note. First of all, we do have a wall outlet and a 12-volt outlet that will operate off the battery. Great for inflating tires or air mattresses or pool floaties or whatever, and of course, whatever else you can power through here. Now, something to note is that on the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, there would also be a second wall outlet over here. Now, because this is the non-plug-in hybrid, we only get one. So if you want 2 outlets, you could do the plug-in hybrid. Down below here, we do get some tools, things like that. And if we pull the tray up, not only do we get the Bose speaker, but we also get a spare tire. A lot of cars aren't offering spare tires anymore, so very cool to see that. It's a little bit of a pain to get to because this panel does not want to go back. But I got comments last time. There we go. There we go. And then toss this in. There you go. All right. It's a pain to get to, but I got a lot of comments last time of, oh, does it come with a spare tire? Yes, it does, and it's found down there. Handle like that. Handle like that. Push them down. Now you have tons of cargo space where the third row once was. And of course you can put a privacy cover here if you have one. I do not currently have it, but there you go. That is the rear trunk space of the Mazda CX-90, which again is another huge selling point. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love the look of the CX-90. It is starting to grow on me more, and I think this rhodium white metallic certainly helps out. It looks very, very classy. I like the white. There is a little bit of pearl to it. I do still think that the rear end kind of looks like a guppy, and it's sort of cut off at certain angles, but for a big 3-row SUV, I would have to say it's on the more attractive side than ugly side, but it might not be winning any Miss America pageants, but that's okay. Before we move on to my final thoughts, still talking about the exterior, this vehicle is also offered in several fantastic colors. I went down to my local Mazda dealer and filmed a couple of them here. Here are some of the colors that at least were on Napleton Mazda's lot, which I really enjoy. I think there are some good color options. However, if I had to pick my favorite color, the Artisan Red, which was the hybrid that I reviewed earlier this year, that is an exquisite color, and I truly, truly enjoy it. I think that's the best color that this vehicle comes in, and that came with a white interior. If that's something that you want, I think that color combo, the Artisan Red exterior, white interior, just was a match made in heaven and was my absolute favorite. However, with all of that being said, I know it's slightly long-winded. Let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think, having driven now my third Mazda CX-90 from 2024 here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel? Well, after all of this experience, I still really enjoy the CX-90. I think it is a good product, and it is a good third-row SUV. As you saw, I can sit in the third row, which can't be said about all 3-row vehicles. Although it might not be the most comfortable on God's green earth, I fit back there. I'm not gonna complain. I think this car does luxury really, really well. Yes, it is an over $60,000 car, and I think it represents that price tag pretty well. The materials in here feel more premium than the lesser models. And to peel back the curtain a little bit, I took this car to a wedding while I had it for the week. If you guys are familiar with my YouTube channel, I shoot a lot of cars over at North Naperville Autos, and the owner, David, got married. So I took this to his wedding. And the reason I bring that up is because I felt classy doing it. I felt acceptable arriving in my suit and tie in this vehicle, where I sometimes do feel out of place in my Mazda 3. I feel like I'm showing up in a shoebox to something a little bit more formal. This made me feel the part. I felt like I was properly dressed, automobile and all. So that's why I bring that up. It does feel like a luxury car, and there are luxury features. The ventilated and heated seats, all the materials in here, the lane keep assist, the adaptive cruise. I think it all works together really well. There are some downsides. This is a first-year car, and so there are some teething issues. The attention warning is way too sensitive. It's too sensitive. When it switches from electric to gas really quickly and shuts off, it's a little bit clunky. It's very noticeable when it is doing that, and so I'd like to see Mazda smooth that out in coming years. Of the 3 Mazda CX-90s that I've driven, 2 of which have had a certain clunk coming from the front suspension. It feels like it's very tightly sprung or something. Over speed bumps, you hear a gunk. And so that hasn't been every CX-90 experience, but it's been 2 out of the 3. My point being is that I think there are spaces for improvement here in the CX-90. This is not a perfect product. And going up against other legacy vehicles, those issues are going to be more prominent. Compare this to a BMW X7, which it's trying to compete with and shares a lot of characteristics with, although it does not share a price tag. That vehicle's been around for a very long time. BMW has worked out the problems. Well, this has only been around for one model year. However, a silver lining most certainly is that, in my experience, Mazda is very good about learning about their own vehicles. When I bought my 2019 Mazda 3, the radar cruise control was borderline unusable. It was terrible. It would hit the brakes all the time randomly. It was god-awful. But then I took it in for an oil change one day and they said, hey, there's an update for the radar cruise. And I was like, all right, sure, whatever. And when I got the car back, the radar cruise was nearly flawless. They fixed every issue that I had with it. It was wonderful. So I hope that they bring that mentality to the CX-90. This is a great product and I think it's a strong start. But if they can fix the little issues with it, I think in 2025 and 2026, this is going to be one of the best three-row buys that you can make. And so to that, I am very much looking forward to the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you, of course, to Mazda for letting me take out and borrow their CX-90 for the last 7 days. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, as well as being so awesome all the time with all of their deliveries and maintenance of these cars, and of course, the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.